Michael. How you doing, KDVS? This is Izzy, and today in the studio, we've got with us the amazing, the wonderful Stephanie Ann Johnson. How are you doing?
I'm doing real well. How are you?
I'm doing really great, especially after that set. Like, I can't tell you how that last song affected me.
Good.
I had to take the camera away from my face. I started crying.
Emotions are
because that
important.
one specifically like hit really, really close home to me.
Good.
So let me ask you, because while you were playing, I felt like all the songs you were playing were like talking to me specifically.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, when you're playing, do you feel like you're talking to somebody? Do you feel like you're talking to one person, or do you feel, tell me about that.
So a couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to teach myself to write songs that were specific to me, but that also other people could see themselves in.
Mm-hmm.
So I invest in a little bit of that. The other thing that I do while I perform, I try to, look up. I'm a spiritual person, so I feel like I'm always talking to the ancestors, or they're talking to me. So I get into that flow state where I feel like it's coming through me and out. So yes, I do feel like I'm talking to one person, but also I did the voice a couple years ago, and the cameraman one time, he looked at me and he winked and he pointed at the camera and he said, "There's 15 million people in here." And it made me really nervous, but it also made me less scared of the camera, because as long as I have faith that there are people that are in there, there's people in there.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And you connect so well. I have to imagine everybody else felt it. Can we talk about your spirituality? How does that influence, your songwriting?
Well, I'm also like an avid podcast listener, and there's a great one. It's a 6-parter. It's called Dolly Parton's America. And in the episode called Saint Dolly, she talks about finding a place where her sensuality, her sexuality, her spirituality, and her musicality kind of intersect. And I really like to think about that. Also, I think one of the biggest influences on my music has been I spent about 10 years doing work with kids and music and theater and art, and I never wanted to write songs where I would feel embarrassed if a third grader sang the lyric.
Uh-huh.
I never wanted to be like, oh, So I wanted to make sure that my music was, it can still be me, and it can still be, a little bit sensual, but still a little PG-13.
Right.
Yeah. For everybody.
I'm listening and I'm like connecting to it. I'm really appreciating it. I could see like playing it with my family. Playing it for my little brother. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Which I think is beautiful. It's more universal that way.
Yes. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about Style?
Style.
Yeah.
The music program that I work with in Seattle?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, yeah. So they're an offshoot of a group called the Bushwick Book Club. And what they do, there's like a Seattle offshoot of that, because it does come from Bushwick in New York. And they have a bunch of songwriters read the same book, and then we all write songs about the book, and then there's usually some kind of lecture about the book, and then people present their songs. And one of the first times I did that, it was Shakespeare, which was great, because just people had to choose their favorite Shakespeare, and so I chose the Dark Lady Sonnets, which are about Shakespeare's black girlfriend. It's important. Get into it.
I've never heard that. I'm gonna look that up when I get home.
Yeah, it's interesting. So anyway, I just really feel like whatever it is that I'm into, whatever comes up comes out. As Brother Ali tells us, right? So whatever I'm feeding myself musically is whatever is coming out of me. So I listen to Americana. I really love that Jason Isbell. I love that Allison Russell. I love that Yola. And like I was saying during the set, I listen to a lot of blues. But also, working with churches, I get asked to sing spiritual songs. So I also listen to a little bit of Lauren Daigle. And then because it is a wild church full of people who are willing to be themselves, sometimes I get to sing Dolly Parton or Beyonce in church, and that feels special too.
That's incredible.
Heck yeah.
You touched on that during the performance, and that made me want to, I want to see this church. You know what I mean? I'm not a very religious person, but I want to see this out.
The Unity Church has worked for me. It's been really affirming when I started using they, them pronouns. The people specifically at the church, the Center for Spiritual Living in Seattle, they were emphatic about making sure to remember my pronouns and to remember who I am and to be respectful of me and my space. And I just really appreciate that. So the places I can be seen singing Sunday morning, Center for Spiritual Living in Seattle, Seattle Unity. Sometimes I'm there at the Unity of South Sound, and Pilgrim, Plymouth Church in downtown Seattle. So yeah, I get around. I see a bunch of different church families, but I like when the outreach is consistent. And by outreach, I mean, how are you putting feet to your prayers? Are you really feeding and clothing the people? Because if not, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always thought the same thing. I'm glad I'm hearing it from somebody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back a little bit. We were talking about influences, right? You were talking about musical influence.
Yeah.
During your song, some of you, who was it that you said gave you one of the verses?
The guy's name is Bradford Loomis.
Bradford Loomis.
And he's a Nashville human these days, but he grew up in Snohomish in Washington.
Oh, okay.
And him and his wife are people that used to be Mars Hill people. But after the whole there's a 10-parter on the fall of Mars Hill. My goodness. They're people of faith. One of their children is trans, and so they're learning to continue to love each other and love their family and grow together, and I love it. And this man, Bradford Loomis, when you see him, he looks like Hagrid. He's a very large white gentleman, like a refrigerator-sized human, but he's got a really beautiful falsetto, and he writes really good songs. So yeah, I hope you get into his catalog.
I'm gonna have to ask you again. I'm gonna need to find that music.
Yeah. Bradford Loomis, he's a good guy.
And I wanted to go off of that. Like, do you find that a lot of people, maybe the things they say, the things they do, influence your lyrics specifically? You mentioned, and I wish I remember which song it was, something that your mother said.
Oh, the truth is a light.
That's right.
Yeah.
So even that's 2 times that somebody said something and it's found its way into your lyrics.
Yes.
Do you find that happens a lot?
It does. It happens like that because I perceive myself as a resonant individual. So
what do you mean?
Resonant. So
okay.
Resonant. So like, I have good nasal resonance in my voice for singing, but also when I hear something that sounds like song lyrics, my body said, there's a light or whatever in my brain that's like, pick that. Those are song lyrics. Pick that. So yeah, that's happened to me a time or two.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you get it from anywhere else? Like other music, movies, TV show, anything like that?
Yes.
Does it come from everywhere?
Yes, it does. It comes from everywhere. There's a song by I believe his name is Charlie Parr. Charlie Parr, and he my goodness, he does a little bluegrass type thing with a guitar and a vocal. And he has a song called "Ain't That the Way It Is," and the way he does it, I was like, oh, I like that, and so I used that line in a tune I have called "Lovers." No, not "Lovers." Oh. It's called "He Knows." He knows, yeah. And ain't that the way it is when love comes to town? It's like a summer breeze. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's good. We got into all these deep conversations. It's funny. I should have started out with the stuff I'm about to ask. How's the tour going?
Tour is good. One of the things that's really great is I have a manager right now who is booking agent who believes in what I do. So that's great. We've gotten some pretty good opportunities together. Like he's helped me in getting to open for Mavis Staples. I got to open for Robert Cray on this run. So it's pretty exciting to play for new audiences and to meet some of these legacy artists who I grew up listening to.
And that opening up for Robert Cray, was that the show where you got the standing ovation the first act? That's great.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
I can completely see why.
Well, I like to talk to people, you know. I can talk the hind legs off a dog. So it feels really good to me to be able to be comfortable enough on stage to address people. Because a lot of people get very uncomfortable with the public speaking. And I'm really grateful that I've been doing this long enough that I feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah, you seem very comfortable when you're playing. You know, you laugh after every song. It's infectious. We're all like laughing with you.
Good.
It's so feel good. You make us feel good.
Good. It's oh gosh, what is her name? Maya Angelou tells us, you know, people forget what you say, but they remember how you made them feel. So if I can go and play music and help people feel real good, then maybe they'll remember that feeling and buy an item.
That's right. You got anything with you? I would love to buy some.
Oh man, we got a couple CDs in the car. We can hook y'all up.
All right, I'm gonna need to get some.
Yeah. I would love that.
Let me ask you. You brought up a couple times working on a cruise ship.
Oh yeah.
What was that all about?
I love it to tell this story, especially when I'm talking to young musicians. Most of the music jobs that I have gotten that are in the theater world or on cruise ships has been because a homie has elbowed me in the ribs and said, "Psst, they hiring, get your CV together and show up at this time." So I worked on cruise ships for about 4.5 years. That's how I got it. Some friends of mine were singing on cruise ships as a barbershop quartet.
Oh.
And, you know, they knew me from college and playing guitar and such. And they said, "Steph, you can do this job. There's no way you couldn't do this job." So they got me an audition with Landau Music, who are they're an agency that books for cruise ships. And I worked on cruise ships for 4.5 years. The first cruise ship I worked for, okay, and this is like, I want to say maybe 2007, 2008. Okay, I made $99 a day.
Wow.
And the contract is, you know, they can have me playing guitar for up to 5 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
So I need you all to please read your contracts.
Yeah.
And also, you want to negotiate for more because you're worth it. I know you are.
That's intense.
Yes, it is. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot.
Did you play mostly originals?
You know, they wanted covers.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, so I walked on the boat, my very first boat, with 150 songs in a binder, you know, with paper and whatnot. And for the first couple weeks, I played every song I knew every night. And then it became, you know, oh, well, you know, this Everly Brothers tune was our anniversary song. Can you learn it? And I disappear for 12 hours and learn it and come back and try and do it. So that was kind of the place to cut my teeth. I definitely learned to talk to an audience and control a room doing that. And it was.
You got a lot of good out of it.
Well, you know, you know, as they say, you get what you give, you know.
Right.
So I tried to put out good feelings and make some decent friends, and I did. Well, a lot of us are still Facebook friends. Some folks that I met that are South African or that live out there in Holland. I get to see some of what they're doing and their families and whatnot. And of course, there's some that did land in Seattle too. So we see each other sometimes.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, how long have you been recording and performing?
I walked into my first recording studio, I believe I was 16 years old. And it was, you know, in some guy's apartment. You know, the home recording.
We know.
Yes. And so, so it started when I was 16. But really the hunger to be a musician started when I was in elementary school because we had music class. And we had choir, you know. I went to middle school, I had choir. I went to high school, I had 2 periods of choir.
Wow.
The choir was the reason I went to high school. And I won, believe it or not, I won a beauty contest because my talent was singing. And that's how I won some of the money I had for college.
Oh, wow.
And then I sang, in choir, for college. I was studying classical voice for a very long time. So yeah, I believe in music education. I think that it's core. I think it's important. I think young folks have to be able to sing and they have to be able to play instruments because it's good for their spirits. I feel the same way about, shop class and stuff like this. We need to learn how to fix the things that we use to get through life.
I think our listeners are getting a lot of good advice on this one.
Thank you. Good.
Where'd you go for college?
I went to a small Lutheran university called Pacific Lutheran University.
Was that in Washington?
In Washington State. It was like 20 minutes from my house. I lived in the all-girls dorm my freshman year because they like you to do that. And, I had seen Animal House, so I thought that's what I was getting. But I got a bunch of hot dish. A bunch of hot dish and a bunch of people who had been homeschooled and people who's, it was their first time out in the world. So it was a little bit of a culture shock for all of us. But, but I ate a lot and I learned a lot and I sang a lot. And some of those friends that I met there, I still have.
Oh, wow.
And it's been a joy to see how they've grown over the years.
Did you do a lot of writing in college?
I did. I did. Oh my gosh. I did. I produced my first CDs. We recorded them, and then I would burn them. I would burn the CDs in my computer in my dorm room and sell these joints for $5-10 at shows. My goodness. I used to be on that hustle life. Oh.
Do you still have any of those that you made back then?
I don't. I have a good friend who has it on his computer, and I really need to get a hold of those because it's like
it's cool to look back on.
Yes,
right?
It's like going back in time. Yes.
Yeah, that's why I recently started trying to record a lot more video or audio and everything like that because I want to, in however many years time, 10 years time, go back and like, what did I do on this day and be able to watch it. I'm gonna be watching the footage that I shot today 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember when Stephanie came through. Yeah. That's great. Here, let me see what I got. Okay, so let me ask you about theater experience. You mentioned it.
Yeah.
What is your theater experience?
So when I was a kid, I was also a theater kid.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? So, I went to a drama club and
I felt that kinship.
Yeah.
You already know.
Yeah. Monologues and whatnot. And, it was a way to, I had epic stage fright. Like, so bad. So fearful. And, I'm really glad for those early experiences because I got to learn to talk to an audience, to be with an audience and have it not be awkward. And some of that experience also, I worked with a group called Rain City Rock Camp. And this is like fantasy rock and roll camp for little girls and female identified people. So like, the little 8-year-old comes in the first day and she's frightened. And by the end of the week, you've handed this little thing a Stratocaster. And she's out here playing her song and singing her truth. My goodness.
Oh, wow.
And, they give you rules for being at the concert. So, you want to be right at the front. And you want to support every band because it's important because we're not only making a sound, but we are making a scene.
Yes.
Right? A musical scene is a musical community,
and
right?
those unspoken, not rules, but that's important for the scene. When you're there, when you're opening, stay for whoever's after you, right?
Yes,
like,
yes.
Yes. I think a lot of people need to learn that. Yeah. I'm not saying
yes.
But I appreciate that.
Yeah. So for me, it's a mixture of theater experiences, learning, this is the backstage, this is the front of house, this is the person that runs the lights, this is the person that calls the show, and we respect everyone. And when they say 5 minutes, you say thank you 5 and keep it going, So the mixture of that, the theater experience, plus the rock and roll experience has created this particular dragon that you're experiencing right now.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask if your theater experience, how does it affect your performance today? Like what you just did. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It has created in me a really strong imagination. So like, last night we were performing at Uptown is the name of the theater, and it was in Napa, California. And beautiful, renovated, 20s Art Deco theater. And I remember walking out onto the stage and being like, oh, I'm just in a theater. And I've been in a theater before. So it's completely less frightening. I had a similar experience being on The Voice. So I was in a giant soundstage. And it's a huge thing, and it's crazy, and things light up, and there's a lot of people. Yeah. But I looked up at the ceiling, and I just saw the crosshatch that you see, the grid at the top of the theater, and it's like, oh, I'm just in a big ass theater. Oh, okay. There's a grip hanging lights. Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Nothing. This is regular. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So I'm getting the signal that we're going to have to wrap up. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming in, for performing, for talking. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Shout out to all of the crew here today at KDVS. You guys have been very sweet to me. Thank you so much. And take care of yourselves.
And if you want to give us the little sign.
Oh, yeah. This is Stephanie Ann Johnson, and you are listening to KDVS Davis on 90.3 FM.
Thank you so much.